Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Hopefully everybody's having a great Sunday afternoon. A little change of pace, I guess, because I have stuff that I'm doing later on today, so I can't do Storms Live at the normal time frame. But I did have Storms Live and Storm Nation up, or it was getting ready to be done. And anyway, and yeah, I'm getting ready to do something later on, so I couldn't really do it. I tried to get everybody from the panel on, but unfortunately, because I changed the time so much, everybody or like so quick, everybody already had stuff to do. Danny couldn't make it, Anzo couldn't make it, and Adam couldn't make it. Guyskar, I maybe pop in. I just sent them a message. He might pop in. They all have the link, so if they're able to drop in, then they'll drop in throughout the show. If not, I guess I'm just going to be going solo today. And then next Sunday we'll go back to the normal 10 o'clock, schedule. But to me, I could have easily just pushed this to next week. And I it put, but here's the problem. Next week, I'm extremely busy as well. I'm going to my Final Fantasy concert on Saturday. Scream 6 comes out next weekend, so I'm going to try to catch that at some point next weekend, and that's going to be pretty much the highlight of the show next weekend. So to me, it didn't make like a whole lot of sense in order to push the Creed 3 topic to next week, because at that point it would already be 2 weeks old, and it just doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense to push that back. And so I wanted to cover Creed 3 this weekend one way or another. So I was hoping I would be able to get a couple of the panel members on here, but being that it is Sunday afternoon, people are already doing things within their life, so they weren't able to change things in order to be on here. But they all have the link, so if they want to drop in, feel free to drop in whenever they want. So did get to go see Creed 3 yesterday. I had dinner reservations at Kobe Steakhouse. Then we went to go see Creed 3. And I'm a big fan of the Rocky franchise, big fan of the Creed franchise. Those were franchises that Rocky I grew up with. I love all the Rocky movies, minus 5. I don't hate 5. Right, a lot of people like hate 5. I think 5 is like my least favorite out of all the films, and that's including the Creed film. But overall, I'm just a big fan of the Rocky franchise, and I'm looking really forward to Creed 3. Now, going into this thing, I heard some rumblings. Let's just say some rumblings that Michael B. Jordan, who is directing this movie, and it's his first ever directorial film, so it's his directorial debut. I was a little worried about it because he had an interview where because he's a big anime fan, right? Michael B. Jordan, he's about my age. I think he might be a little bit younger than me, or right around the same age, I guess. But he grew up in the era of anime just like I did, and he's inspired by anime. He loves anime. He's a geek too. So when I was watching interviews and stuff, he said that he was inspired by anime and that you're going to see a lot of anime tropes in the fighting scenes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I feel about this. And it actually worked out pretty good. There was one thing about Creed 3 I did not like, right? There was something I really, really did not like about the movie. But overall, I loved the Creed 3. I thought it was a massive improvement over the second film. Just got back from RLI just said he just got back from perfect timing. Yes, perfect timing indeed, because that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I walked out like really, really impressed with the movie, really impressed with Michael Jordan's director prowess, his directorial debut. I really enjoyed the movie a lot, especially since I wasn't the biggest fan of the second one. Now you say that, right? Like I said, like I'm not the biggest fan of the second one, and people automatically think like, "Oh my God, you hate the second one." I had this debate with the people on Storms Live before, right, when we were talking about Creed 2, and I was like, "Yeah, I was a little let down by Creed 2." "Oh, you're crazy, Rob. That shit was fucking dope. He's fighting Drago." No, let me talk. The reason why I was let down by Creed 2 was because the first movie was a very intimate movie about this person who grew up the way he did, thinking he's a bastard, feeling like he's a mistake, and he's fighting within himself to try to prove that he's more than just a mistake, right? And then the second one gets very cartoonish where, oh, the guy whose father killed my father, I am now fighting. And to me, I'm like, what's the odds, right? Like, what's the odds in the world that the guy who killed your father also has a son who also boxes that just happens to want to fight me now that I'm the champion? So that's why I didn't hate Rocky 2 or Creed 2, right? But it's my least favorite out of the trilogy, and I thought it was a major step down from the first movie, which was a more personal story, where the second one gets very much into the cartoonish factor, and you already seen that movie before. We already seen it. We know what was going to happen. There was no point in Creed 2 where I did not know what was going to happen in that movie, right? We knew he was going to fight Drago. We knew Drago was going to whoop that ass, right? And we knew that Michael B. Jordan's character, Adonis, was going to fight him at the end and win. We knew everything that was going to happen within that movie. That's why I was really let down with Creed 2, because we seen this before, right? We knew what was going to happen, right? So when I said on Storms Live, like, yeah, I really, really love Creed, but Creed 2 was a little bit of a disappointment. And I got all the pushback from the panel members. Oh, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. No, it's because never at one point, right, did I feel like Adonis was the underdog. When he was stepping in to fight Drago at the end of that movie, I knew he was going to win. He was never the underdog in that movie. So I automatically knew the movie pretty much telegraphed the way it was. I understood what was going on, and I just the movie was fine. It's a great movie, but I feel like it was a step down from the first one. Then we get into the third film here, and no Sylvester Stallone in this one. Michael B. Jordan is directing it. Stories coming from Ryan Coogler, and right from the beginning, I enjoyed everything about this movie, because to me, it gets back to the basics of it being a personal story about Adonis, right? It's not about him fighting and trying to get out from being this mistake that his father left behind. This was him and his past coming back to haunt him, where he was in a home and he was abused. And then later on, he basically tried to take it out on the guy that abused him. The cops got involved. His friend kind of pulled a gun on him. And from that point on, the roads split. One went one way, one went the other way. And then years later, almost 20 years later, the past comes back to haunt you. And then what's going on with that? You have this one character, Damien, who's played by Jonathan Majors, who feels like everything that he was fighting for was stolen from him. Yet Adonis has everything that Damien wanted, right? Everything Damien was fighting for, Adonis ends up having it, right? Being able to fight over in Africa, being able to be the world champion, all this stuff. This was stuff that Damien, that was his goal in life. But because of the confrontation that Adonis has started, now granted, Damien did, pull out the gun, all that stuff. But because of that situation, Damien suffered consequences, whereas Adonis got to grow up with his father's mother or his father's wife's house in that environment to end up being trained by Rocky and end up becoming world champion, having this massive empire, getting married, having a kid. So Damien looks at it like, well, man, I've been in jail for the past 20 years, 18 years, almost two decades. Meanwhile, this guy who I was trying to help him is living my dream. And that's why I like this movie so much more than Creed 2, because it goes back to being personal. It goes back to being that movie where it's grounded and is dealing with the consequences of this character and the events of his past. It's very much like an origin story, which I enjoy. Where Creed 2 was just like, it was crazy, man. Like, it just happened that the guy who killed your father also had a son that boxes, and they just want to fight. Like, it was crazy. Creed 2 is fine. I'm fine with it. I watch it. I enjoy it. But to me, it's just one of those things that it's too movie. You know what I mean? It's a movie, right? Like, it's literally a movie fantasy storyline, Whereas you see something like Creed 1 and Creed 3, right? This is something that is more in the realm of possibility. And I like the fact that Damien was like, look, I'm gonna set this like look, you either give me a shot or you don't. I'm gonna set this up one way or another, and he sets it up. Right, he sets it up to where he takes out Drago, so he has to be the number one contender because now they're in a hole. They need to fill that spot, and then he goes out there, whoops that dude's candy ass, becomes a champion, and then basically shit goes from there to where it takes Creed to come out of retirement to go fight his former best friend to take back the title from him. So it's a more personal story. The anime inspired stuff, you notice it very, very like you notice it right away from the very first fight where they're sitting there and they're fighting, and then you see them dodge, and then you just see the eye focus into like the ribs, right? Because that's something you see from like Dragon Ball Z or something, right? Like Goku would dodge, zone in on the arm, or Naruto or something like other anime, right? You see where the characters like dodge and then like boom, Goku notices a leg, right? So he attacks that leg, right? And they really play into the anime inspired anime influence within the fight scenes. And I thought all the fight scenes were awesome, right? Like there was a scene that was from Dragon Ball toward the end where Damien did something and like Adonis just goes for this uppercut in the stomach, and you just see where it hits the stomach, and then they zoom into the back where the back is just being hung, and we see that so many times from Dragon Ball Z, right? Whether Vegeta goes in and just punches the dude in the stomach, right, and he's just like inhaling and shit, right? Like that's very much inspired from like stuff from like Dragon Ball and other anime fighting sequences where they just go in and then boom, it was a straight Dragon Ball Z shot, right? Like we've seen it 100 times. I thought that was awesome. The one thing with the fighting I did not like was from the very first Rocky movie all the way up to Creed 2. They always show the first round, the second round, and then there's a montage between round 3 up into the final round. So they're like fighting. It's like dun 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 dun, bum, bum, bum. Then you see the girl walk by round 5, round 6, round 10, and they're just playing the music montage and they're fighting back and forth, right? They did something completely different. This is the first time in the Rocky and Creed franchise they do something completely different, right? They show the first 2 rounds, they're battling, and then right when the round 3 starts, it just like the audience just disappears. And it's just Adonis and Damien in the ring, and they're fighting, and it's just weird. There's no sound effects, nothing. And he like punches him, and he falls back into the ring, and then there's like a prison cage there, and it's very, very weird, very, very anime-ish. I did not like that at all. To me, it took me completely out of that fight. I'm like, what is this? And I understand though, like the artistic reasoning behind it, because it makes it personal. It makes it where it's like it's just these two. They're locked in. There is no crowd. There is no audience. It's these two. He noticing him as he once was. He notices Adonis as he once was, and these two are fighting back and forth. And I mean, I really dug like the concept of it. I dug, but I think the execution just does not work well. I think you also have to keep in mind that when you're shooting this, right, you have to keep a level of realism when it comes to boxing movies, because the way it's shot, the way it's done, it's supposed to feel like a real live boxing event. For some reason, that sequence when the crowd just disappears and they're both in the middle, I did not like that at all. I just felt like it took me out of the movie. And then when they got into the final round, then I was like, okay, I'm back into this. The crowd's there, boom, boom, boom. It was different. They got back to be the basic part of it, and that's what I like. And then of course the movie ends the way you normally think a Rocky movie or Creed movie would end. And overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's a phenomenal movie. It's early on in the year, but it is my favorite movie of the year so far. I have my previous movie of the year was Knock at the Cabin. The Knock at the Cabin is now number 2. Creed 3 is my number 1 movie of the year. We still got a long, long way to go. So from there, we can only wait and see, We can only wait and see what happens after this point forward, like what's the other movies coming out. But phenomenal movie. My only nitpick was that one scene with the the disappearance of the crowd. That was one of my only negative of the movie. Um, a couple little personal choices that I didn't like was the fact that there was no Sylvester Stallone. Not really a mention to Rocky. I mean, they mentioned it very briefly, like Apollo giving Rocky the underdog shot, um, stuff like that. I don't know why my live chat is not coming up. My live chat is not coming up. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna refresh to see if that thing comes up. Okay, yeah, okay. The chat came up now, so I got it fixed. But yeah, um, overall, yeah, I didn't like the fact that Rocky had no presence at all in the movie. Like, not even like, hey, have you talked to Rock lately? How's he doing? How's he doing with his son? You know, they could have chimed in a little bit. You know, I understand you want to kind of go out and do your own thing. Like this is you want to make your own franchise, but at the same point, you can't be you can't step over the shoulders of the Rocky franchise that basically built the Creed franchise and not at least have some kind of inspiration or nod to what's going on with Rock, you know? Like I think they easily could have just said, "Yeah, man, you know, hey, I talked to Rock last week. He's doing really good out and blah blah blah." That's it, right? One line, just one line, and just have, yeah, yeah, I was talking to Rock, he's doing good, his health is fine, everything's good. Boom, that's it. And they didn't even do that. So I was just like, oh man, I don't know, man. I didn't like how they handled that. Another thing that I noticed that 99% of the people aren't going to notice. 99% of people are not going to notice in this film. I noticed it and I did not like it. Max Kellerman, ESPN commentator or anchor, whatever you want to call him. Max Kellerman has been in the past 3 Rocky and Creed movies, right? He was in Rocky Balboa. He called that fight. He was in Creed 1 and Creed 2. Max Kellerman was in those 3 movies, right? Max Kellerman used to be the co-host on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. I did not like how Stephen A. Smith, who was not in any of the previous movies, was in this movie and Max Kellerman was not in this film. The fact that they had Adonis' character or Michael B. Jordan's character, Adonis Creed, show up on First Take with an interview, and Stephen A is over there. Oh yeah, come on, like I mean, oh my god, and have Stephen A there and no Max Kellerman there to call the fights or anything. Max Kellerman has called the fight at the end of Rocky Balboa, Creed 1, Creed 2. I do not like how Stephen A. This is getting like real sweaty, like real nerdy shit. Like that, no one's gonna notice this, right? I don't know how many people notice this, but it kind of pissed me off in the theater. But when Stephen A. popped, because in real life, Stephen A. is the reason why Max Kellerman got kicked off First Take. Right. And for me personally, I haven't watched First Take since Max left the show. I'm a big fan of Max Kellerman. I think the man knows his shit, and I think Stephen A was threatened by his knowledge. But I did not like the fact that Stephen A. Smith shows up on here promoting First Take, and Max Kellerman wasn't even there to call the final fight in this movie. When Max Kellerman, one, is a boxing aficionado, and he was in Balboa, Creed 1, and Creed 2. That's what I'm saying, RO. That's what I'm saying. Max Kellerman covers boxing in real life. That's why he was in Rocky Balboa, Creed 1, and Creed 2. And instead, they threw in Stephen A. Max didn't do anything to get kicked off of First Take. Stephen A didn't like the fact he said they had no chemistry. But if you go back and watch First Take with Stephen A and Max Kellerman makes Stephen A look like a fucking idiot. Like Max Kellerman, other than the Tom Brady Cliff argument, Max Kellerman does a lot of research, does a lot of stuff, and he knew his shit. And more often than not, right, he really made Stephen A look like an idiot. So much so that even Terrell Owens comes in and's like, you know what? Max Kellerman acts more black than you, Stephen A. So I think that was one of the final straws. But I don't like the fact that Stephen A was in Creed 3 when Max Kellerman was in the last 3 Creed and Rocky films. And now I don't like that at all. It makes more sense for Max Kellerman to be there because he actually covers boxing in real life. So I just did not like that. But overall, Creed, I've been talking about it for the past 20 minutes. Let me just kind of give my final thoughts on it, and then I'm going to move on to Mando, and then we'll finish up the stream unless any questions come in. Overall, phenomenal movie. Liked it way more than the second one. I think it got back to basics, back to being personal, back to being about Adonis and his story rather than hey, this old guy's son, blah blah. It was ridiculous. It was like what was gonna happen in the third one? Was Mr. T gonna come back, yo? Was Mr. T gonna have a son? Like, get out of here with this. So I'm glad they got back to basics. I'm glad they got back. I thought Jonathan Majors absolutely killed it. Like, that dude just killing everything right now. Besides Ant-Man. He couldn't kill Ant-Man. Ant-Man killed him. But I digress on that one. But overall, phenomenal movie. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Just that final fight scene, that whole like quiet fight thing. I understood artistically what Michael B. Jordan was trying to achieve. I don't think it works well on film. If I would have saw a cut of that, I would have been like, you know what, this just doesn't translate. My vision doesn't translate well to film. I think we need to go back. Like recut or redo something because it just wasn't coming off the way I think that he wanted it to. So yeah. So overall, solid film. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, maybe next time if there's a Creed 4, mention Rock, be like, hey, yo, Rocky, talk to him on the phone. He's doing pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah, Adrian, something like that. So I mean, that's my thoughts on Creed. Let me just hit on Mandalorian real quick, and then we're gonna end this show. Once again, guys, like I said, I had stuff that came up later on tonight, so that's why the other panel members are not here because no one could really kind of change their schedules fast as I kind of did it. So I kind of like gave them not really good warning, so they couldn't be on the show, unfortunately. But we'll be back next Sunday with both Storms Live and Storm Nation. Again, I really apologize with the lack of what's the word I'm looking for? The lack of heads up, I guess the word I'm looking for here, heads up there, but yeah, as for Mandalorian, I watched the last week's episode and I really, really enjoyed it. I think they're setting up a lot of stuff for this season. A lot of little Easter eggs, a lot of stuff with Bo-Katan. I think they're gonna start like really kind of like putting their foot to the gas pedal at this point and really kind of revving up what's going to happen next season, I think, or this coming season. And I can't wait to see what they do with stuff on Coruscant and all that stuff, and try to dive into the Mandalorian culture, because I think the Mando's cult. I call them a cult because what were they're called like Children of the Watch. What are they? Children? Are they Children of the Watch? I don't remember the name of their little cult there, but they're like kind of psychotic because there is no rule saying that if you take your helmet off, you're no longer a Mandalorian, because Bo-Katan and her people take the damn helmet off all the damn time and it doesn't really matter. So it's just like, man, I don't know. But overall, I like the episode a lot. I don't think a couple people like this episode sucks. It's like, man, bro, like, what do you think about the space whales? Those are Purgle, my friend. Those are Purgle. The space whales are Purgle. They were first introduced. They were first introduced in Star Wars Rebels. If you guys watch Star Wars Rebels, you know what that Purgle is. The Purgle are like these space whales that kind of travel through hyperlanes. And at the end of Rebels, Ezra calls in the Purgle to take him and Thrawn basically into the unknown regions. So to see the Purgle is more of an Easter egg to kind of get people who never seen Rebels kind of idea of like, what are these things? So when Ahsoka comes out and you see Thrawn, you see Ezra, and you see the Purgle, then you put 2 and 2 together. But okay, that's what Baby Yoda was looking at. So the Purgle, we had 10 likes and now we're down to 9. Who the hell took away their like? Who is the twinkle toe wiener sucking mother monkey who took away their like? You see how much I cussed there and I didn't actually use a curse? That takes skill to curse and not really curse. Let me tell you what now. Let me tell you what now. But overall, yeah, really liked episode 1 of this season of Mandalorian. I think they're setting up a lot of stuff, and I can't wait to see what they do going forward. So, with that said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for the day. We'll be back next week with the whole cast and crew, I hope, and hopefully you guys all have a safe day. And until next time, guys, as always, I'm Robert Storms, and my back hurts really bad. I got like ice on it. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Later, guys.